Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to stay updated with all our latest content. Join us and never miss out on the excitement. A flashback starts this episode at the onset of the outbreak. Shane is visiting Rick in the King County Hospital, wearing his sheriff's deputy's uniform. Army personnel are evacuating hospital staff and executing the infected. Shane begs a nurse for help, but she runs past him screaming. Shane watches fearfully as the military execute terrified people in the hallways. He tries to lift his comatose partner, but hesitates because of all the tubes and wires attached to the machines that are keeping him alive. Shane asks him desperately to tell him what to do, but Rick is unresponsive. He ducks behind Rick's bed just as 2 Army personnel arrive to sweep the room. When they leave, he begs his best friend to wake up, but the power goes out and Rick's monitors die. Fearing the worst, Shane puts his ear to Rick's chest. After hearing no heartbeat, Shane reluctantly leaves Rick in the room. However, he barricades the door with a hospital gurney before he flees. In the present, Rick and the other survivors file into the CDC lobby in Atlanta. Dr. Edwin Jenner meets them at the door. He accepts them to the CDC, but demands they do a blood test first. As the group wander deep into the CDC, Carol notes that she's claustrophobic underground, and Jenner simply advises her not to think about it. Jenner leads the group into the control room. Looking around, Rick questions the absence of other doctors. Jenner states he's the only one left. When Jenner introduces her, the group realizes that she is the voice of the CDC's computer system. As Jenner takes a blood sample from Andrea, she asks him what the point is. As they were bitten, they'd be sick with a fever. Jenner says it's protocol. Later, the group feasts in the CDC cafeteria, joyfully drinking wine and liquor from the fully stocked kitchen. They are beyond happy about finding a safe place to stay and a good meal. Glenn is drunk, much to Daryl's satisfaction. Carl tries his first sip of red wine. He hates it, to Laurie's delight. Rick toasts Jenner for his hospitality, and the doctor quietly raises his glass. After dinner, Jenner shows the group around the building, directing the children towards the rec room and telling everyone not to waste electricity. The survivors are thrilled to luxuriate in hot showers, all except for Shane, who angrily swallows a bottle of liquor while he bathes, and Andrea, who sits numbly under the stream. Rick meets with Jenner and thanks him again. He admits to Jenner that he never let on to the others what he really thought, but he knew that they were running out of options before they got to the CDC. Cradling another glass of wine, a buzzed Laurie finds Carl, Carol, and Sophia reading books in the rec room. Carol takes the children to bed while Laurie stays behind to browse the library. A drunken Shane confronts Laurie and is angry with her for abandoning him once Rick arrived. Laurie retorts that Shane lied about Rick dying, and because of that, anything between them is now over. Shane attempts to force himself onto her only to have his neck and ear clawed by her nails. Later, Rick stumbles into bed with Laurie and sees that she's been crying. He assumes that it is of something else as he is clueless as to what had just happened with her and Shane. The next morning, Rick shuffles into the cafeteria. He, as well as most others, is hungover. T-Dog proudly dishes out powdered eggs for everyone, while a hungover Glenn groans. Laurie hands Rick some aspirin, which she says came from Dr. Jenner. Shane enters the room and heads straight for the coffee. T-Dog asks about the scratches on Shane's neck. He shrugs it off, claiming he must have scratched his neck in his sleep. When Jenner arrives in the kitchen, Dale starts asking questions. Andrea concurs, saying they didn't come here for the eggs. Jenner leads the group into the control center. He tells the computer system to display the brain scans from the episode's namesake, Test Subject 19. The top secret brain scan video shows someone who was infected and allowed the process of reanimation to be recorded by the CDC. Jenner explains. The video shows the synapses of the brain hemorrhaging before it goes black, as the subject died. The group are saddened to see this, still reeling over the losses of Amy and Jim who have died from a similar event. Jenner fast-forwards to the TS-19's reanimation. The synapses of the brain slowly lights back up in a dull light. Laurie asks if the virus restarts the brain, to which Jenner states that it only restarts the brainstem, enough for the walker to get up and move. But everything else that person was is forever gone. In the video, a bullet flies through TS-19's head in the video playback. Andrea reminisces of Amy, whom she had to shoot in the head. Jenner admits he doesn't know what the virus is or how to treat it. He's unsure if the virus is natural or man-made, and even does not rule out it could be divine punishment when Jackie suggests it could be the wrath of God. He also states that he has lost contact with other research facilities due to loss of power, with the facility in France being the last one he had contact with until they too run out of power. Dale interrupts the stunned silence to ask Jenner about a clock on the far wall, which is counting down from an hour. Jenner informs him that it is counting down to how much fuel is left for the lab, but he refuses to elaborate what happens once the clock reaches zero. Rick, Shane, T-Dog, and Glenn head to inspect the generators. While they're in the basement, the building's emergency lighting switches on, bathing the four in darkness. Upstairs, Lori and Carl are in their room when the building's air cuts off. In his office, Jenner stares at a photograph of a woman, asking her to understand that he did the best he could in the time that he had. He says that he hopes she's proud of him. With the lights now shutting themselves off inside the panicked survivors' rooms, they confront Jenner in the hallway. He explains that the building is slowly starting to shut itself down. Rick demands to know what happens once the clock hits zero. Jenner tells Rick that the lab contains very dangerous pathogens such as weaponized smallpox and Ebola strains that could wipe out half of the country. Once the clock hits zero, its computer system will decontaminate the entire building using hits. Confused as to what an hit is, Jenner has computer systems tell the group what it is. High-impulse thermobaric explosives which will detonate once the clock reaches zero, igniting the air and destroying the entire lab in the process in order to prevent any dangerous pathogens contained inside the lab from potentially escaping. It is too late to prevent this from happening as there is no fuel left. Rick orders everyone to get their belongings and leave. But before they can, Jenner locks the doors, trapping them in the control room. As the group begin to panic, Jenner tried to tell them not to panic, as their deaths will be instantaneous and painless, and it will be better than the inevitable death that will await them outside, as he considers the outbreak to be humanity's extinction event. Darl and Shane futilely attempt to break through the door with axes and guns, but Jenner states that it's built to withstand a rocket launcher. Rick, T-Dog, and Dale throw Darryl, wielding an axe, off Jenner. Rick talks down Shane as he points an automatic gun in Jenner's defeated and unaffected face. Rick also demands to know why Jenner stayed if he didn't think there was any hope. He reveals that TS-19 was his wife, and she instructed him to hold out as long as he could. Rick and Lori tell Jenner that they just want their chance to keep going as long as they can. Swayed, Jenner agrees to open the door, but also tells them that they still won't be able to get past the lockdown upstairs. Jenner opens the door to the control center. Rick offers Jenner to come with them, but he refuses, wishing to remain in the lab when it explodes. He shakes Rick's hand and pulls him close, whispering something into his ear. The group heads for the exit, but Jackie stops. She wants to stay in the CDC when it explodes. T-Dog tries to convince her to leave, but she refuses, saying she doesn't want to end up in a similar fate as Jim and Amy. Unable to convince her, T-Dog leaves. Andrea states that she wants to stay in the CDC too. Unable to convince her to leave, Dale states he is staying too as he does not want to leave her. In the CDC lobby, the group finds the doors locked and they pound helplessly on the windows. Shane shoots a rifle at the glass, to no avail. Carol says she has something that may help, pulling out a hand grenade. She found it in Rick's clothes when she washed them. Quickly, Rick detonates the grenade, blasting out one of the windows with mere minutes to spare before decontamination. In the basement, a resigned Dale sits in front of Andrea and states he will not leave her in this state. Andrea is furious that Dale is making the decision to die with her. The survivors run to the cars, shooting at nearby walkers as they run. They pile into their cars and are getting ready to drive away when, from inside the RV, Lori sees Dale and Andrea emerge from the building. With just 10 seconds left, Jenner and Jackie hold hands, smiling proudly as they watch the survivors flee on the security monitor. Dale and Andrea run behind a military blockade and take cover as the CDC erupts in a fiery explosion. Andrea looks numb, but follows easily as Glenn desperately motions them to the RV. Shaken, Rick starts the engine, and the caravan drives away from the smoldering rubble, thick black smoke rising up behind them. See you in the next video.